How's it going? Thanks for joining me here on this Wednesday morning. I'm super excited to announce the release of my new mega pack with Retro Supply Co. Let me pop up my little graphic here. This has been a long time making. Uh, I went through literally everything on that Retro Supply has available. I've been using their stuff for a really long time. Really love all the stuff that they're doing. And, I've talked about it a lot in previous videos and I use it in all my work. But it can be a little bit overwhelming because they have so much amazing stuff. So I made it a point to sort of just hone in and pick out all of my favorite things, put them together in a special pack for everyone. Now, it is not just brushes. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm going to talk about in this video. I'm going to show you some stuff, maybe do a little bit of drawing. To be honest, winging it a little bit. But, you know, uh, let's get into it. First things first, I have some very exciting news that I just heard from the wonderful Dustin at Retro Supply Co. Although this pack is going to retail at $97 because it includes so much stuff, I have a special promo code which is going to bring the price down to $49, and that code is Piascik Power. And I should put that on the screen, but I didn't prepare ahead of time. But it's my last name. You can see it there. It says Piascik and then Power, all one word, all uppercase. Huge discount. Pretty great. So let's dive in and talk about everything that is included in this pack. Jenna Hess just put it in the chat. Thank you so much, Jenna. I appreciate your help putting the code in the chat. And let's dive into this set. Also, just shout out to Steve Evans in the chat, Jenna Hess, The Mighty Maze, Andrew JD, lots of channel members. You'll see some names rotating on the side of the screen. These are my super supporter and above channel members. I draw all of their names and include them in all the videos I make while they are active members. Again, these are the super supporters and above. Couldn't do without you. Thank you all so much. So let's pop open this this PDF guide that goes through everything. Let me see. Here we go. Where's my keyboard? Okay, so this is for Fresco and Photoshop. However, I'm working on the Procreate version, which will be out soon. But this pack comes with so much stuff. So there's a bunch of different video tutorials that are exclusive to this. There's we got brushes. I think there's like over 100 different brushes. There's paper textures. There's color palettes and a full color guide, which I'll show you a little bit of in a few. It's there's a lot. It's like a 20-something page document where I talk about my process for colors. There's a lot of different color tips, and there's just countless color palettes and swatches and color systems that you can import directly into Photoshop, which I will show you those too. There's 2 exclusive fonts that are handmade fonts by me, and I also included example PSDs showing the layers for coloring for the Riso brushes and some of the halftones in here. This set includes the full Riso brushes set that I really love to use, which I'll show you. It also has a full video tutorial showing my process on how to use those brushes. There's also a halftone video. And it also includes my love. It's you might not be able to see it in there, but it's in there. So we've got a lot of different categories of brushes that are in this set. We've got drawing brushes, which includes sketching brushes and then inking brushes that I like to use. What I wanted to do with these sets was sort of organize and like categorize them in a way so they're not overwhelming and it doesn't, like, for me, maybe some of you can relate to this. When I have a lots of different brushes, I feel overwhelmed and like kind of like a paralysis where I don't know what to do. So I didn't put like a ton of different brushes that do similar things. I tried to narrow it down to like the ones that I like and they work the best for me. And hopefully that's the case for you too. I'm going to go through and show you a lot of them in this video, but we've also got coloring brushes. So I have some general nice textured coloring brushes, like if you wanted to go in and just fill in colors. But I also have the Rizo set, which I've mentioned a few times, which is like a brush set that I'm obsessed with. And then there's also halftones. So I've had a lot of different halftone brush packs in the past, and I ended up not using them because there was so many options in there that it was just overwhelming. So what I did was I chose my favorites and then made sure that it was clear on when you'd use them, and I'll show you that in a little while. But it's basically a pattern for up to 4 different colors and then like an additional one if you want to use it for a shader or if you wanted to use a 5th color, but they overlay perfectly. They're also set up with pressure sensitivity so that you could do some like halftone shading with them. Very excited about those. And then there's a ton of different texture brushes. Again, texture is something that I have so many texture brushes and it's so hard to sort of tell which is which and a lot of different options. I also have like a strong preference with texture brushes. There's a lot of texture brushes that are a little too I don't know, have too much change in value, or they're almost like photographic, and I like them to look more set, like fully black and white, like just like a texture, as opposed to that sort of I don't know, more depth. So a lot of the ones that I chose are like that. If that's confusing, I think it'll be more clear when I show you them. And then there's this set of a bunch of different patterns that I really like that I incorporate into my work that are a really fun way to break up flat shapes and do some stuff. And then there's a category called effects. So the effects are sort of like texture, but you would use them not in the same way as texture because they're sort of like things that you would maybe like stamp on as opposed to painting with them. Because they're things like a crease in a page or like a fold mark or just a sort of like an ink spot, and they're really nice effects to add onto your artwork, but they're not necessarily a texture brush that you could use to sort of draw with. So the drawing category was a big one for me. My work is very much line based, so the most important part of my brush selection is the drawing brushes. So there's 2 categories here mainly. There's sketching brushes and my inking brushes. Even though I'm working digitally, I require a pencil type brush. Like it needs to feel like a pencil or I can't sketch. I can't, for some reason, if I try to like sketch something with a brush that I do final line work in, I can't get the ideas out. It just feels, I don't know, too final. It's hard for me to explain it. I need it to look like a pencil. So there's 3 different pencils. I've had packs where there's just like 30 different pencils, and I'm like, I don't know. I just want to quickly sketch out an idea. I don't want to spend a lot of time picking a pencil. So I found the ones that I think are the best. Sketchy is the one that I probably use the most, but then I have the Perfect Pencil, which just is like, oftentimes I'll do like multiple rounds of sketches where I'm refining. So maybe I'll start with the sketchy one, and then as I start to get closer to the final line work, maybe I'll move to like the perfect pencil, which is just like, I feel like it's, you've been sketching for a while and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna go sharpen my pencil and get serious. So that's when I switch over to the perfect pencil. The soft pencil is similar to sketchy, but just a little bit, thicker, softer lines, which I like when I'm doing quick sketches and just trying to like map out an idea. And then the inking brushes, the classic inker, I use it all the time. I talk about it all the time. And then I also included one that is exclusive to this set. This is one of my own brushes that I've customized called Crispy Liner. And this is a brush that I made that really emulates the pressure sensitivity of the classic inker and how the classic inker draws. But sometimes I want clean, crisp lines for certain applications. Sometimes I need it for a client project if, maybe they want that style, if they don't want the grittiness. So it feels just like the classic inker, but it's nice and clean and crispy, if you will. Justin Phillips said he just bought the pack. Thank you so much. I hope you like it. Thick and Dirty is like classic inker if it was got a little loose. It's just thick and really extra dirty. It's just like taking the dirtiness of the classic inker and punching it up. And then I have Mono-ish, which is also based on that same texture of the classic inker, but I have it set to very minimal pressure sensitivity because sometimes I want just like a mono weight line, but I want the texture to be consistent with the other brushes. And then the dash pen is sort of like a special use case, but it's a really fun brush that I like, which just has a nice gritty dashed line. Okay. So, this is in the document that comes with it, but it just goes through, my process for how I work, gives examples of these lines, and then a quick example of a cheeseburger on a skateboard. Then this goes through examples of the different inking brushes showing the lines, how I work and what they're used for. Again, some examples of the same drawing shown with the classic inker, and then also shown in the crispy liner to show the difference between the two. It looks like some people are having trouble finding the pack on the site, and if I was smart, I would have put it in the description of the video, but I'm sorry, I did not do that. My bad. I'm imagining someone is going to put it in the chat. I see Dustin is here from Retro Supply Co. Also Bailey, thank you for joining in. It's been great to work with you guys on this set. And then some examples of the coloring brushes. So the first cheeseburger is shown colored with just some of these like gritty coloring brushes that I've selected that I really like. And then the next one shows it colored with the halftones and then with the Riso brushes. And then we're gonna go into the halftone brushes. So as I mentioned, there are 4 main brushes. Also, this comes with an exclusive video tutorial. You just click on the tutorial thing, it'll open up that video, which walks through using these. So I have these set up now so that they're numbered 1 through 4. And what you would do is just assign one of the numbers to whatever color you want to use. And they're set so that they line up, so they don't line up and they're just like perfectly offset. So they work really nicely together. These also, as I mentioned earlier, have pressure sensitivity so that you can use them to do some sort of like cool shading and a lot of fun stuff. So there's 4 of these halftones, but then there's also another one called halftony because I thought it was funny. Halftony is just like a grittier, it's like sort of like some of the dots bleed together, and I think it's fun if you want like a darker color or to use as like a halftone shading brush. I like it a lot. So here's 2 examples done with the halftones. The video tutorial walks through the process on doing this little Cheeseburger Man, you could see in the eyes and like there's some shading. So that's how the pressure sensitivity works. You can press lightly and get some lighter dots and start to fade them out, and then press harder and get the darker dots. They're really fun to use. Oh, apparently there is a huge banner on the top of the site. Awesome. Very cool. Kath Ellis, thank you so much. Yeah, also, make sure if you're just tuning in now, use the discount code because we have a mega discount code, Piascik Power, which cuts the price in half. Use it. Okay, so the Rizo brushes. These brushes are, I use them all the time. I'm obsessed with them. I think they're amazing. These brushes were built with actual analog Rizo print textures that Retrosupply Co. collected from different risograph printers, and they're just so fun to use. So I sort of tried to break this down and explain it in a way that makes sense. I have a exclusive video tutorial for these, but then I also linked other videos where I use these brushes and walk through the process on them. Some demonstrations and showing how I make my artwork with these. So I tend, when I use these things, I usually don't use a separate color for the line work. I'll do the line work, color it, and then I will repeat the line work on each color layer to make that final line work color, which, so like this final, this image right here is just 3 colors on top of each other. So it's these 3. So the blue, the red, and the yellow, and they're just stacked on top of each other, as you can see in this jumble to the right, but it makes this final image. And this link right here is a video showing me doing that, from the whole process. So you can walk through and see that. This Rizo set also has the print defect brushes, which you can go in and make it even grittier. I've called them the Rizo messer-uppers to just make it even more gritty. Yeah, so this PDF has a lot of this. You can see a lot of these different textures here. I tried to name them in a way that made sense to me and how they worked. In the actual Rizo set, I would always get confused on the different textures in this part of the pack, and like I wanted to make them clear, but for my own use, but for everyone else as well. So it's like you can kind of tell what it is if you're not as knowledgeable about the actual printing process or like the different things. And then there's the texture brushes. These are a lot of different really fun, gritty textures. I tried to name them in a way that is helpful. Some of them have silly names like The Big Sad, but that's just like an extra wash. So in here, I've got examples of brushes, but also like some tips and like how I use them sometimes as an eraser to like pull color out, and just love the texture. So then these are the effects. So as I mentioned, these aren't brushes that you would really kind of like draw with, but you can sort of add them on. Like these folds and creases are, really authentic looking, really nice, and really add a lot to the grittiness when you're trying to make it look really just like, vintage, gross punk rock, whatever. Yes. Just making sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. Yeah, so Dustin from Retro Supply Co. is mentioning that they worked with a real Rizo printer as well as a ton of artists and comic professor at Kent University. Wow. Very cool. So then the patterns. So there's a lot of really fun patterns. There's a couple here that sort of look like halftones, but they're not really halftones, but you could use them with the halftones if you wanted to. The reason some of these are um, like patterns versus textures is that no matter like how big or small the brush is, it's gonna make that same pattern. So like if you had a small brush, it would still make the same size pattern, but if you made a really big brush, it would make that. So it's just how much area you're filling in. But these are really fun to use. I love this wiggly line one over on the right. Um, there's like raindrop tears thing here, and then these horizontal gritty lines. I've got right ones and left ones, and you can pair them together to get a really cool cross hatching effect, which is pretty neat. And then there's a bunch of paper textures that are smart PSDs, which are awesome. So you basically put your artwork into the smart PSD, and then you have full control over the texture and like how the ink effect is there. I have a file open that I can show you that process on, but it's really amazing how authentic of like a vintage print look you can get with these smart PSDs. And Retro Supply Co has so many paper textures available, and I played around with all of them and picked out my absolute favorites. So, you know, to find all these paper textures, you'd have to get like all the sets because I have stuff from all the different sets and just like my favorite ones. So I think you're gonna like them. So I've got demonstrations on how it works, but also a video tutorial for this as well. Basically, you've got your paper texture and effects, you've got adjustment textures, adjustment ink fade, and then like the paper, and you can control how much of that texture is in there, how much the ink is faded. It's super cool how much control you have over it. So these are some quick little thumbnails of the different paper textures that come in the pack. I think they're all really great. I think it's going to be hard for you to tell in this video because it's pretty small, but there's some good stuff. I also use these all the time, so if you're familiar with my work, you've seen most of these. And here's some of the paper textures and examples of me using them with my work. And then I mentioned there are two fonts that come with it. Chunky Lean, which is a font that I drew, which has a fill version and an outline version. It's set up so that uppercase is all outline and then lowercase is all fill because there's not lowercase letters. So that was the easiest way to do that. I think it's fun to use the outline on top of the fill ones, then like offset it a little bit to get a cool effect. You've probably seen that in some of my videos if you've seen them. I think it's fun. And then Wiggle Nation is a wiggly display font. Just wiggly letters. Pretty fun, I think. I think it's fun. I like it. Hopefully you like these too. And then we got some examples, diagrams showing the brushes that I used for the different things. You can see that pattern I was talking about with the wiggly lines that I really like. And you can see I mentioned those diagonal lines I have there done as like a halftone, which is pretty cool. And then thank you. So that's that pack, and that's the guide. Let me quickly show you some of the color guide. Excuse me, talking too much. So this is another big document that talks about choking to death. Hi. This Yeah, so basically it says here, these are my tips and my thoughts on using color. Um, you know, color can be subjective, but I think there's some good information in here. Some of it is, science based, but I mean, not science, but like there's thoughts behind it. But some of it is personal preference. But it talks about the way I use color and how it works. Um, we've got a guide to using different colors and examples and talking through color choices, um, talking about value and different kinds of illustration, and then some other bonus tips and resources, and then just a ton of color palettes. And these are all, let me pull up Photoshop. These are all as a swatches library. So when you double click on this, it's going to load into Photoshop. And then when you are in Photoshop, you'll see here, we've got we've got 22 different color palettes. I have a couple of them labeled Rezo because they're color palettes that I use for Rezos, and that means that they layer really well. Not that other ones wouldn't, but whoops, that one's a duplicate. But there are yeah, there's so many color palettes in here from different illustrations that I've done and things that I come back to. I think you're gonna like them. So this right here is this is one of the PSDs that come with the set, and it shows like these different layers, so you can kind of look at them closer and like see how they overlay. My toolbar is on the other screen. Sorry. Okay, so you could like play around with this and see like how they work together. Pretty fun. And then, so this is one of those smart PSDs. So I'll show you how this works. So you could take this as like a whole set right here if you wanted to, and like you could put it in a little folder and then like come over and drag it into this file. And then let's see. Oh, I have auto select turned on. Okay, so let me make this a little bit smaller. So you'll see here, we've got our paper texture here, and we can adjust the ink fade. So let me zoom in so you can see a little bit better. So if we adjust this here, you can see how it kind of, makes it really light or washed out, and then you could have very little ink fade, and then you can adjust how much texture is in there. And it's really easy to use and a quick way to really add a nice authentic look to it. Really excited about that. All of these. So again, here we've got all these different paper textures. We've got all the brushes. One thing that I should mention, if you're familiar with my channel and my work, you'll know that I do a lot of my work in Adobe Fresco. In the brushes thing, you'll see that there's this folder, which is the Chris Piascik Retro Supply Co. brushes. That is all the brushes, but you'll see this other folder that it says the same brushes, just separated into groups for Fresco. So the reason I did this is to just make it a little bit more organized if you prefer. If you load these into Fresco from the main file, it's just gonna be one big folder of over 100 brushes. And that's a lot for me. So let me switch over to my iPad so I can show you what I'm talking about. Hey, let's see if my chat works. Let me see if this, we'll leave this here for a second and see if chat starts showing up in there. Okay, so this is a ridiculous drawing of I've been doing the 30 Days of Critters thing, and the prompt was bootleg Felix, and I was trying to come up with something interesting, and my brain comes up with terrible ideas sometimes, and I was like trying to come up with puns, and at some point my brain was like, what about like Helix? And that's like He-Man, not even thinking like the word Helix. Um, and before the other part of my brain could be like, that's nothing, that doesn't even make sense, I I was just like going and like drawing this really just dumb drawing that doesn't make any sense, but sometimes that happens. So that's what this is. I might do some color on it today, or work on the next prompt, which is uh, Puffin, which I haven't even started yet. So let me know in the chat if you would rather me work on Helix or draw a Puffin. Okay, so let me talk about the brushes again. So when you go into the brushes here, if you just load the first file, it'll work fine, but you will get this, just a sea of brushes, and that's too much for me. It's hard, and it's not efficient. So what I did was I broke them down into categories. So drawing, and then coloring, and then like the Rezo brushes, and texture brushes, and like the Rezo defect brushes, and then the effects. So in order to do that, you would just go to add brushes, and then instead of choosing that first file, what you would do is just go into these and just do them manually, which is a little bit annoying, but you would just do one for each, and then you get folders. So if you want the folders and organization, that's what you would do, because Fresco's brush management isn't as sophisticated as Photoshop. All right, let's see what is happening in the chat. Yeah. So let's see. Authentic paper. Thank you. Hope you like your set. So Mick, you're saying, can we use these palettes into other software? So like, I don't believe you can import the files directly, but in the color guide, I made sure to put the RGB and CMYK color codes for all the palettes. Let me just pull that back up real quick so I can show you. So although you might not be able to import a Photoshop swatch file, you can you can see here there's the RGB codes and then the CMY codes below that, so you can go in and like find the color palette you want and put in the codes, which is a little bit more tedious, but it still works. All right. Okay, so we've got some votes for Felix, and we've got a vote for Puffin. Tinrail, glad that you like the categories for the brushes. Sarah Davies, thank you so much. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Reggio. Really appreciate that. Okay. So the Timothy, the Procreate version is in process. It's just I have to finish the tutorials for the Fresco thing, the Procreate stuff, and also organizing the brushes is like kind of starting all over again. It's in process. I'm hoping in a couple weeks it'll be done. I think it won't be as time consuming as this one was to set up because most of it is going to be ready. It's just sort of getting everything organized in a way that is, as valuable as the Photoshop Fresco version. I just prioritize this one because this is the one that I use the most in my workflow. Okay. So basically we've gotten uh even votes so far for Puffin and Carl says Puffin He-Man. That's as ridiculous as Felix He-Man. So I have a document set up for the Puffin. I don't really know. It is pretty silly. Maybe I'll start sketching this. I'm a little apprehensive because I don't have any plan, and sometimes first thing in the morning I am not at my best and a little self-conscious. But let's do some sketching. Maybe this will go poorly. Okay. So puffins, they have very big heads and they've got very distinctive eyes. They're kind of stupid looking in a cute way. So this head is pretty distinct, but I need it to. So it kind of comes down like I need to sort of stylize it too. Drawing too big right off the bat. That's not what you want to do. You want to do some quick thumbnails like I always suggest. I like the open mouth one, but I feel like I'm not sure if that is very. We got to figure out how to make it have puffin vibes, and I think it's like about this weird sad eye. And then there's like, oh, you know what it is? There's this like angle for the face, and then the beak sort of like comes out of it, but it's sort of a bigger head. But I also want the eye to be bigger. Why do they look sad? They've also got this weird line that comes across. Are we really thinking about a He-Man puffin? Because how would that be? So we've got this head, and then they've got like a little body. So if he had some big muscles and a sword. I should have just drawn my my He-Man because this is a trash drawing. Let's think more about the character of a puffin. So I should have got a front-facing one to see what they look like from the front. Sometimes when I'm struggling, what I'll do is I will take one of my references and just sort of like draw over it to get a feel for what it looks like. Let's see. So take this over here and then bring it down like that. And then try to just figure out what is unique about this bird, but also sort of stylize it. So I'm going to exaggerate this eye. I feel like I need the beak to be open, even though it's not helping the cause. But maybe it should be sad. And body's like this. So I'll like do something quick like this and then get rid of the photo. And then because when I look at it now, I go, okay, I just traced it, but like it doesn't look like a puffin. The head looks too small, even though we traced it, because when you're doing an illustration, you really have to exaggerate those features for it to look like you think it should. Because, like, to me, when I think of a puffin, even looking at these pictures, I'm like, they have a big head and a small body comparatively. But this just looks like a normal ass bird to me, which is not ideal. But what we can do is be like, okay, well, this is the general shape of the head, but we need to exaggerate what makes it unique. So it's like, okay, the head is bigger, and it's already starting to look a bit more like a puffin. And then we can come in and sort of exaggerate those things, like this weird eye thing, like that, and then like that under eye thing. So their beak is just like a kind of a round on the top and then a bit of a straight at the bottom. So maybe that's what we were missing. And then that clear shape like this. I think we want to like lean into that sort of sad face. See, now we're getting somewhere. And then maybe it's like, I want to make it like slouched over or something. How do you slouch? Maybe tilt the head down a little bit. What are you guys saying in the chat? Are you Systematic said a normal ass bird is going to be the name of my memoirs. You know what? Maybe we should do something with like the puffin. Like maybe it sounds like it's like smoking. Maybe he could have a cigarette. Do they have what? Oh, they have a little tail thing, little tail situation. All right, I like this like hunched over thing, but I think that body needs to be smaller too. And then what is this? What are we doing there? Let me give him his puffing on this cigarette. That might be something. So I'm trying to lean into the vibe of these, like, so this drawing prompt set was organized by the amazing illustrator that goes by the name of Titty Bats. So it does some like gritty illustrations, and trying to lean into that with these, making them a little bit more get this out of here. A little bit more, I don't even know how to describe it. Weird. All right, let's see if we can, what we're going to do. We're going to switch over to the perfect pencil. Like we just sharpened it, like I mentioned. Momo, these will work in Adobe Fresco. I'm using them in Adobe Fresco right now. So the set has a video tutorial on installing them, but all you do is just go to your brushes and then go to add brushes, and then you just import from files and just save them in a place that you have access to, and then they just load in there. All right, so I'm gonna lean into this like frown, and also exaggerate the roundness of that beak. And then make this eye a little bit bigger because I like big, goofy eyes. And then this like line is, I don't know what that is, but they have that. Oh, that helps lowering that a little bit. That gives it more expression. So this new Apple Pencil Pro's got the squeeze feature, which is cool because you can just pop up this menu right where you are, which love that. And then, okay, so oh, their head actually goes up. It sort of like follows the line of that beak. So I think that's what we got to do. So we'll just like draw this through maybe. Oh yeah, that's better. And then we can just come in and erase this part here. And then that shape kind of comes to like a point. Hey everyone, how's it going? All right. There, and then that, and then like just little tuft, little bird butt tuft. Pull that in. I think this is mostly fine. And then this, how does a bird hold a cigarette? Anyone know? Just make these sort of look like a fingies. And then oh, it doesn't look right. I think we're gonna need to work on that a little bit, but that's okay. We can get there once we do everything else right. I don't love the feet yet. Angelina, you said how many hours a day do you spend it drawing? So it's funny. I actually have a good answer for you because in my video I posted Tuesday, which was an update on the iPad Pro with the nano texture, because there's a lot of people who were concerned about it. I went into my app usage and figured, because I do most of my work in Adobe Fresco, and I saw that I average like 5 to 6 hours of drawing in Fresco a day. But then there are other times too, like if I'm using, sometimes I will use Procreate Dreams or sometimes Procreate once in a while. And that's not included in that app usage, but most of my work is in Fresco. I would say like 90 to 95% of my drawing is done in Adobe Fresco, and that's averaging like 5 to 6 hours a day. Okay, so let's see if I can make these feet better. I just want to simplify them. Like, I understand that they're like webbed feet, but like I don't. Do they have? Their feet are fairly large. Just sort of shift this one forward a little bit to balance. I don't know. There's something weird about that. Oh, maybe it's fine. Okay, let's merge this down. This is all fine and dandy. Let's move these out of the way. let's figure out the problem areas now. So the hand, and when I say hand, I mean the feathers. I think it's because I don't know how to smoke, so I don't know how you're supposed to. So it looks like it would be the top one over, I think. I think that's how you would do it if you were the top be in between those two. I'm over here trying to model a puffin smoking a cigarette. Why is this confusing to me? Probably because they don't have hands. That's the real issue. What are we even doing here? It's ridiculous. I think the arm is also sticking out too far. So I think maybe if we pull it in a little bit, it'll be fine. I don't know how puffins puff. We're just gonna go with it. All right, so let's delete that. Well, not that one. Oh, I get it. It's another layer. How are we doing here? Let's make this bigger. Not that big. Holy moly. I never used the actual eraser. So it was set to some wild size. I just use the brushes as an eraser, but because I'm in the sketch phase, I'm not worried about matching texture. Okay. That looks so dumb. Merge down. Maybe we need to, no, you know what? We're overthinking it. It's puffin. Waffle Husher. So Adobe Fresco doesn't allow you to import vector brushes. You are able to import vector presets, and I do have some of those available on my site, but there's only so much you can do with the vector presets because Fresco vector is a little bit different than traditional vector because it's just sort of shape based. There's not like outlines and fill. It's basically like drawing with the blob brush in Illustrator. So you can't use like stamp graphic type situations with the brushes. You can only control the settings. So you're pretty limited in what you can do with vector brushes in terms of customizing them. I feel like I've sort of pushed it to the limit in the sets that I have available, but you know, maybe that'll change in the future. Okay, so I'm going to use the classic anchor because it's my favorite. I'm going to turn the smoothing all the way up because it is smoothing time. Because I draw slowly with lots of smoothing when I'm doing my final line work to just get it nice and clean. And it's just such a satisfying brush to use to draw with because it's just so, I don't know. It just looks so inky and like consistent. It's like a brand new marker. I don't know if I'm actually going to do the line work for the that like white patch on the head. I think I'm going to do that with color. So I'm going to erase those. Sometimes I try to minimize extra line work on the face of a simplified character so that it doesn't distract from like the expression. And I like with this brush, you can sort of lift up a little bit to get a nice clean taper. Okay, pull that in. For some reason, my iPad is wiggling and rattling. I think part of my stand is on the desk and the rest is on the mat. It's a little wobbly. All right, can we... Let's trying to go as quickly as I can here so I can get into some of the fun color brushes. I'm also slightly dreading inking that dumb feather hand with the cigarette that I drew. I just have it in my head that I can picture it, and it's not what I'm picturing. Like I feel like my rough sketch is better. Let's work from that. Yeah, we can use that. And I guess the cigarette can be bigger because it is a small bird. Why did I draw that so poorly? Okay. Is the cigarette part on the top or the bottom? Like not the cigarette, like the filter thing? Let me know in the chat. Is it down here or up there? Okay. Let's delete that. And now we could do some color action. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put like a gray background just so I can see what's happening here. And I'm going to set this as a reference and then make a new layer to do my color on. Beep, 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 beep. Jania W, you asked why I prefer Adobe Fresco versus Procreate. So I've actually done a couple videos going to great detail explaining it, but the main reasons are the motion tools are far beyond that of Procreate, and I also prefer them for the stuff that I do to Procreate Dreams, because I'm not doing like full-on animated shorts or anything like that. But you know, it's just very simple to add motion quickly, and there's like motion paths and like frame by frame plus paths and like things where you can just like click buttons and have things move quickly. Also, it has vector ability too. You can have vector layers, and because as a professional illustrator, I'm needing to work in like delivering Photoshop files or like Illustrator files. They work seamlessly back and forth. I know you can export PSDs from Procreate, but like I can work on something in Fresco, go over to my computer, it's already there in Photoshop. I can make some tweaks, go back to my iPad, and it's all there. But I recommend checking out the video. I think it's one of I think it's a pretty good one, pretty useful one. Not the old one. There's a really old one. Don't watch that one. Don't watch the yellow one, the yellow thumbnail one. Watch the newer one. I think it's like a photo of the two app icons looking like they're battling. Okay, so I am going to quickly just fill in the inside of the line work on this lower layer, just all one color, and then I'm gonna like do a clipping mask on top of that so that I can quickly color in the space without having to worry about going over the outside. So the first thing that I'm going to do is draw in that that shape thing that's going on there. So I'm going to grab one of my coloring brushes. So I'm going to use this dry fat marker, and I'm going to pick a dark gray that is dark enough but will not obscure my line work, I don't think. Make this smaller, and then I'll come in here and just sort of color in around this eye. And then, so it goes, oh, that should be the white area. My bad. So this is gonna come down to a point like that. And then same thing over here. So as you can see, it's like just, if you can press lightly and get more texture, or press harder and sort of fill it in. But I just think it's a nice brush for doing some quick coloring. You can, make it bigger to do it faster. And you can decide like how much fill you want with this one, which I really like. But I also like that it's consistent in texture, in terms of like it doesn't get more transparent. It just sort of has some white areas. Okay, so this beak is like very red towards the end. This is a palette that Fresco made from that photo. So I think I'll just tweak it a little bit. I like to exaggerate the colors a little bit. And then maybe I will use this dry ink brush. They're like all turned up really high for some reason right now. So this part is like the end. I'm going to turn up the smoothing so I can get a nice curve like that. And then it's like stripes or something. What a weird bird. So I'll have those like almost connect with that. I don't want it to do it exactly. I just want to get the feel for it. So, maybe I think we're going to go like this, simplify it. That's too much detail. And then we can do yellow for the rest, and maybe that like gray stripe in there. So I'll grab that yellow. This one is a little bit more texture, and I think this one will be good for the yellow because I want it to be fairly light. You can sort of like go over the edge a little bit, and you'll get some of the orange to come through, which is a nice effect. And you can also like come back in, darken up some areas a little bit. Okay, so this, let's do the feet that same color. All right, and then the body is, I guess the wings are dark too. I think this color might need to be a little bit darker. I always just want to like make sure I'm not making it blend in with the line work. Oh, so I have reference layers turned on, so it wasn't going to allow me to just fill in that color because it was taking the reference from the top color. Okay. Let's switch to the cool crayon. So this one, again, has a lot of control. So if you press lightly, you can get some really nice texture like that. But if you press harder, you can get almost like a full fill. A full fill. I like this one a lot. This is also good for like breaking things up, which I'll show you in a little bit. In terms of, guys, I did the color backwards. Are you telling me that in the chat? Oh, what a dum-dum. That's okay. We'll just redo it. What an idiot. Let's fill that in. Why is this confusing for me? This is the type of thing that my brain can't handle yet in the day. Okay. We're going to have to use another brush to get that detail in there, but we can do a quick little fill through. Let's use this. Make that a little bit smaller. All right. There we go. That's how a puffin works. And then let's, so basically it's white. It's like that. I just color in the rest of this. So I guess I'll just do it quickly with this brush, and then I'll go in with the other one that has a little bit more detail, and then clean up that edge a little bit. It might be a little too clean, but what I like to do if it gets too clean like this is I'll come back to like something like the cool crayon and then use it as an eraser with the modify tool, and then I can press lightly at the edge here. But actually, because we're, oh no, I was going to say we're coloring, we don't want to erase the fill, but there's white beneath it, so it's fine. And you can just like kind of break up that edge a little bit, or just add texture to areas that don't have it. And you can do it like on anything like here, we could come in, add a little bit grit there. I like to do it on my line work after the fact too. Like, you can blend that in a little bit. I kind of want to know what that would look like black, even though I said I didn't want to do that. I think it sort of makes it look more puffin. And I think we just need to modify that line work a little bit and add some details. So I think to make the black work, what I'll do is make a layer on top and just sort of blend in some of this a little bit more. And then put in some detail lines for the separation. Actually, let's use the rough anchor. I'm like trying to use all of them here. Thick and dirty, that's the one we're going to use. So what I want to use with this is on top, I'm just going to add some separation here. Just where it overlaps. And then this, I think that needs to taper off like that. Put a little highlight in there. And then I think someone told me that the cigarette has the filter on the bottom. So I don't want to add an extra color. So what I'm going to do is use the orange, but I'm going to use it with a brush that has more white in it, like this dead marker. And then it will sort of give that lighter orange look. Like that. And then, actually, I think if we mix some yellow in, it'll be even better. So then I'm going to come below that and use the fat marker. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, I think I have white on that layer. What a dum-dum. Let's do it on another layer. Okay, that's good enough. Let's just clean up that edge a little bit. Make it more round. And then maybe we can do this. I'm like always trying to be efficient with colors and not use more than I need. Oops, not that. So let's come over to, let's go into our texture brushes, and there's this one called the Grit Builder, which you can sort of get some texture in there to make it sort of ashy. Maybe we could have some, oh, there's a wee bit of grit will be perfect for this. So what I want to do is just have some sort of like some ash stuff coming down. I think what will give this thing a little bit more character is if we give him like like a pink, not pink eye, but like red eye. Like I feel like it'll go with the overall mood. So Dustin just let everyone know that the promo code for the brush pack is good through Sunday night, and it is a huge promo code. The promo code is Piascik Power. You can see the spelling of my name underneath my name. Okay, so I made a selection of inside the eyeball so that I could use one of my texture brushes to color this in, because I want to like go to the edge and like have it filled in there, so it like almost has a little bit of a shape thing to it, but then it can be lighter there, and then I can just sort of brush in lightly until I am satisfied with the amount of texture. All right, so we can turn off that background for now. This puffin is weird. What I don't love is that the line work is perfect, but everything else has texture to it. So what I'll do is make a layer on top of this and then do a clipping mask to it. And then use white and a texture on top of it to just sort of give it the same sort of grit situation. I'm going to tell you that this is not my favorite drawing I've ever done. But, you know, that's what happens. That's where we are. I think I want to add a little bit of shading. Not too much shading, but just a little bit of like texture to give it some shape below. So I think maybe why not? Maybe I'll do some halftone on there. I'll use the halftony, as I talked about that before. It may not make a ton of sense with this drawing, but I think, you know, why not? Why introduce halftone to something that doesn't already have it? But I think it could be cool. So this one, if you want to get like, you can press and it'll like bleed into itself, which is kind of cool. That was too much, but for demonstration purposes, I kind of like it on the beak. Almost looks like a 5 o'clock shadow situation. Okay. What needs to happen is this white line is a bit much, so I'm just gonna come over that on a new layer. My layers are getting a little hectic right now, but you know, it is what it is. And now we need a little bit of smoke and then a paper texture, and then we'll be like, okay, fine, that's good enough. Tin Rail, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you soon. I'm gonna make some smoke. So I think what I'll do is I will draw the smoke in my brush pen, so the classic inker, but then I will make a texture to make it look better. So I will grab this color and then just sort of draw a smoke line. You know what? Maybe sometimes when I'm not that happy with a drawing, I will add a little motion to it to make it feel better. Maybe that's what we're going to do here. Let's make this have a little bit of wait a second. Let's not even do that. We're going to add motion, but we're going to do it in a better way. We're going to do it in a better way. All right? Making a new layer here, and we're going to grab what texture? We're going to use I think this easy grit one. I think this might be good for smoke. We're going to do some trial and error here. I think that texture might be a little light for our purposes. Let's see what it looks like in black. Okay, it might work. All right, we're going to show you one of the reasons why I love fresco so much. So we click on this motion thing down here, and I do a path. What I'm going to do is just draw a squiggly line, and you'd be like, well, that's not how smoke works. And I'll be like, wait a second. First, let's add more of these. And let's slow it down. And let's add a grow shrink to it. So we'll make it get bigger. Scatter a tiny bit. maybe randomize it a little bit. Okay, let's see. Number of times 1. All right, now let's see. Let's see if we want to. Whoa, freaked out. What happened? Let me go into the path settings here. Let's go like that. Okay. Let's turn that off. Come back here. I got that smoke come through. Oh, you know what? If we are doing animation, we can't have those where are they? Oh, the ashes. Okay. We got to do that too. So let's do a new layer for that. And let's do grit control. And then I think we might be able to do this with a path too, actually. So if we go like this, and then we do, we shrink it down to, wait, grow shrink one time, and then I think that's pretty good, but the path is probably too long. So if we can just make this shorter, so they're just sort of like going like that. And let's, so that's pretty good. We just need to put it behind the cigarette, so it makes more sense. All right, sure. I don't know how I keep messing up with that setting because I'm not closing out the animation settings. Let's just put some overall grit on this whole thing and call it a day. So let's do this easy grit. Let's make it big. Let's hey, did I just make fresco? I've never made fresco freeze before. Sweet. Let's we've got a problem here. The good thing is it'll auto save. I've never had fresco crash before. That must be because I need to update to the other thing. Oh, you know what it is? I'm running the beta. Whoops. Yes, coupon code Piascik Power for 50% off. Okay, so we didn't lose anything. Great news. Let's get some overall texture on here. Grit this up a little bit. Maybe we'll do some like some sort of ground. Not pattern texture. Let's do this one. That's a bit much. And then I'm gonna erase some off of him. I'm just gonna throw a paper texture over this whole thing. I'm not, well, I was gonna use one from the pack, but I did this in such a chaotic manner and it's animated. So we're just gonna overlay it right now. So I'm gonna go into photos and just grab one of the paper textures that are actually, I think they're part of it anyway. put this over here and just multiply it. We're getting a little bit less control here, but let's just play it because I gotta call this a day. You know what? This is my puffin. Is it my best work? No. Is it the worst thing I've ever drawn? Probably not. I don't love it. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. I'm gonna do a better live stream. Not better, but I'll do better drawing content on Friday during my normal live stream. This was more about just showing off the pack, and then I just happened to draw something. So if you're gonna grab the pack, make sure you use the promo code Piascik Power. Thank you all for joining in. Yeah. I hope you enjoy the pack. Hope you like it. See you on Friday. New videos every Tuesday. Live streams every Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Alfonso, yes, the pack is available, and make sure you use the promo code Piascik Power, all one word, to get a mega discount, 50% off. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you to my channel members. Thank you, Reggio, for the super chat. I'm just noticing we are at 59,900 subscribers. We're about to hit 60 pretty soon. Pretty wild. I wanted to hit 10,000 in my first year, and we're not even at 2 years. And we're blew past my expectations. Okay. Thank you all. It's nice to see so many channel members in the chat. If you have questions about the pack, feel free to reach out. You can message me on Instagram or email me. There should be a link in the description to my website, which has email on there. Instagram works too. Thank you again to Retro Supply Co. You can find the pack at retrosupplyco.com. There's also links in the chat if you scroll back. When this live stream goes up, I will put the link in the description. One quick note, my live streams do go unlisted, but if you go to my channel page, there's like 3 rows down, you'll see live streams, and all my live stream recordings are right there, so you can find it. Mad Skills, thank you for subscribing. I just got the notification. Okay, bye everyone. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.